Hey friends! Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be doing a foundation review and wear test on a brand new foundation and concealer from NARS. It is going to be launching on September 1st on Sephora.com and also on NARScosmetics.com. The foundation is, what is the name of this? I want to make sure I get it right. The Soft Matte Complete Foundation and the Soft Matte Complete Concealer. And NARS was so kind enough to send me 3 shades in each, the concealer and the foundation. And when they reached out to me and sent me an email and said, hey, we're going to be launching this new foundation, they kind of went over what the foundation, the benefits are and how it's described. I'll be honest, it sounded like my dream foundation. I talk a lot about on my channel about how I like matte foundations simply because I live in Texas and it's so hot, and I like long wearing foundations, but the struggle that I find is finding a matte foundation that looks natural and finding a matte foundation that doesn't look like a heavy cakey mess on the skin or doesn't make the skin look flat and lifeless. And when she was describing this foundation to me, I was like, well, that sounds like a dream foundation. So I want to read you a little bit of what what the collateral says here, because I want to make sure that I cover all the talking points. And then of course we'll get into the application. And then I'll be taking you guys with me throughout the day to check in and show you how it's wearing. Full confession, I did wear it yesterday. So today's actually going to be my second day wearing it. And today I'm going to try and apply it with a sponge. Yesterday I applied it with the 106 foundation brush. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to apply it with both. I'm going to use the brush on one side of my face and I'm going to use a sponge on the other because I really want to see which applies it better. I put it on yesterday and I think I put on too much because I noticed that I got a full application and then I had some left over. And so I went ahead and used that in areas around the center of the face where I really didn't need any more coverage, but I went ahead and used it just because it was on my hand and it looked a little heavy. So I thought, well, maybe it's because I put too much on, or maybe it's because of the tool that I use. So we're gonna play with it today. I'm gonna take what I learned yesterday. We're gonna test it out today so we can see how it wears, how it looks on the skin. So let me show you the shades that I got. This is what the packaging looks like. It comes in like this kind of like soft matte touch packaging. This is the shade medium 1.2 Patagonia, which is my shade, and this is what I am in other NARS foundations. It has a twist off cap and a little squeeze tube. So it's not a pump, but you can squeeze the tube to get out what you need. And I do find you have some pretty good control because it's not like a big open bottle with a big open, mouth. It's a very small, so you can really control, even though it's not a pump, you can control how much you get. So I was sent Patagonia 1.2 medium. I was also sent Santa Fe medium 2, and I'll show you guys swatches of each of these as well. And then I was also sent DeVille Light 4. And I'm gonna go with Patagonia. This is what I wore yesterday. It seemed to be a good match for me. And then in the concealers, I was sent Light 2.75. This is what the concealer looks like. It's in a nice plastic. I like plastic, even though I love the look and feel of glass, but I drop things and I can't tell you how many times I've dropped a product and it breaks and shatters, or I lose a piece on my floor and then I'm paranoid about stepping on it barefoot. So I really love a good plastic jar like this. It has a nice soft touch lid. I think NARS packaging is nice. It's simple, but it's elevated, if that makes sense. And then I also have the shade Light 2.5. This is Creme Brulee. I'll do swatches of these as well. And then I also have the shade Light 2.4 Cafe au lait as well. So, and I did notice that some of these look a bit more peachy. And then there's one in here that's a little bit more cool tone. So we are going to use that one on my skin. I'm going to use the Light 2.75 and I'm going to use the medium 1.2 foundation and concealer. Now let's go ahead and get this hair kind of out of the way. As far as what I have on my skin right now, I just have eye cream and moisturizer. I am going to forgo using a primer. I don't really like to use primers when I test out foundations just because I want to see how the foundation wears on its own. Okay, so let me zoom you guys in a little closer so we can see the skin and see kind of the current state of the skin before we apply the foundation. Okay, so here is my skin I'm going to be peeking in the mirror as I'm talking to you. You guys can see I don't really need a whole lot of coverage. I do have some little sunspots, age spots here that you can see that are a little discolored, but they're pretty light. They're pretty easy to cover with a good natural to medium coverage foundation. I think my biggest issue when it comes to my skin is the size of my pores. I think you can clearly see them here, especially in this area. They're deep pores. So what I mainly look for in a foundation is something that is long wearing and something that is kind of smoothing or pore blurring. When it comes to coverage, I'm not really a full coverage kind of girl. I like that good medium coverage. I just realized we didn't go over the talking points here. Let me read these two before we get started. I'm going to read you the whole card so you can get a feel for the vibe. It says, bring your mattitude, soft matte complete foundation and soft matte complete concealer. Discover natural looking matte coverage that resists oxidation and helps prevent your shade from shifting throughout the day with new soft matte complete foundation available in 34 shades and best selling soft matte complete concealer now available in 30 shades. High coverage, low maintenance, all mattitude. Okay, so the concealer has been around. It seems like they've added maybe a couple of shades. I might be wrong there. High coverage, low maintenance. It says it's available September 1st at Sephora and NARS Cosmetics. The foundation will retail for $40 and the concealer retails for $30. So a couple of things that really stood out to me that sound like a dream are the natural looking matte coverage that resists oxidation, because I think that's another way that our foundation looks so obvious is not necessarily because it looks heavy, but because the color shifts, right? And then, 2 or 3 hours after you've applied it, there's an orange tint to it or it's darkened. So this foundation claims to not do that. And I like the word soft matte. That gives me this illusion of this visualization of really soft skin, velvety matte, something that's not heavy and flat. So let's see if that is the case. Okay, so here you go. Here is my skin. We're gonna start with the foundation first. I'm gonna use a little bit of Patagonia and I'm gonna squeeze just a little bit out. Like I said yesterday, I used too much. To be honest, I didn't really need that much. I'm gonna squeeze out about this much. You can see the texture of it. It's moving down my skin, or down my hand, so it's more on the liquid side. It's not like a mousse or a cream, but it doesn't seem to be real watery or runny either. Now we will first apply it with a brush, okay? I'm gonna apply it with the brush and we'll do the right side with the brush. Yesterday, I think it wore really well. To be honest, I didn't go back and check in and analyze it and take note of it, but I did not feel throughout the day that it looked shiny or bad. I think I remember thinking my skin looked pretty good all day. When I first applied it, I did feel like it kind of settled in my pores, but I also didn't notice that until I went back and applied that second layer, and I don't really think I needed it. So today we're gonna really be careful to not apply too much. Okay, so I'm gonna start in the center of my face and I'm just pressing with this brush. This is the BK Beauty 106 brush. There are a lot of foundation brushes out there like this, so if you don't have this one, you can probably look for something similar. But I like this brush. I like that it's really dense and rounded, so it is going to really get the most coverage from your foundation, but it's also soft and fluffy at the edge of the brush, so you can really kind of buff and blend out to get a more natural look. Okay, yeah, this is already looking way better than yesterday. Yesterday, I had this look and then I just had more on my hand, so I went back and added more. And that's when I noticed oh, it looks a little heavy. But this does not look heavy. That's why I thought maybe the sponge would be a good idea today to test, because the sponge is always gonna give a more natural looking coverage and finish. Okay, so immediately I get pretty good coverage. You can see nothing on this side of the face, foundation on this side of the face. I definitely feel like this looks like a soft matte finish. It's very soft and airy looking. Does that make sense? It doesn't have a flat, harsh, heavy, cakey look at all. And it blended into the skin really easily. To give you an idea of what I still have on my hand, that's about what I have on my hand. Okay, then we're gonna go up here. I do actually like the way this brush is applying it today. Also, yesterday was Sunday morning. I drank a little wine on Saturday, which can dehydrate your skin. And so when your skin is more dehydrated than then makeup doesn't quite look as natural on it, right? Because it tends to magnify that dehydration and texture. So I knew yesterday was just not going to be a good foundation day because of the state of my skin. Okay, that is really, really nice. Okay, so this is what it looks like with a foundation brush. Foundation, no foundation. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply it with a sponge. I will probably need a little bit more, I'm gonna guess, because a sponge typically does absorb a bit more of your product. So you find that you know, you tend to need a little more. Ooh, now that I'm using my finger to apply this, I can really feel the texture of it. And it almost feels like a good mix between a liquid and a mousse, like a moussey liquid. Does that make sense? Okay, and so I'm just gonna press this. And it's just like buffing and blending that foundation in instantly. I mean, if you're in a quick, if you're pressed for time, the sponge is a great way to save a few minutes or seconds from your foundation routine. Okay, but you can obviously tell that this is a more natural application. Do you see? You can still see the skin through it, where this has more coverage, right? And it's the tool that you use. Okay, so this is what I have on my hand. I'm gonna go ahead and use all of that, and I'm gonna just go straight onto the sponge, and we're gonna go and kind of build that in the center of the face. A sponge is a great way to get a more natural finish from any foundation, but I find that more full coverage foundations or matte foundations are what I like to use a sponge with more, just because those are the ones that tend to lean a little bit more, or a little less natural, I should say. Real sheer skin-like foundations, using a sponge, you're just gonna probably find that you're not gonna get almost any coverage, because you're gonna have to use a lot of product to get a desirable amount of coverage. Okay. What I love about this sponge is that it's got so many different sides to it. So right by the hairline, you can use the pointy tip to really get in there. But then when you get into the center of the face, you can use the flat side. When you get to the jawline, you can use that little curved dip there. It's really designed to hug all the contours of the face. Okay. All right, so that is a good application with the sponge. I do think that there is a difference in coverage. I feel like I still have more coverage from this side than I do this side, and I think I used less product here. Yeah. And I almost think that brush really buffed it in, made my pores look smoother. Isn't that funny? Yesterday I felt like they were more noticeable, but again, I think it's because I used too much. Okay, so next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and go in with a concealer. I'm gonna resist applying any more foundation. And I'm gonna just use my finger, and I'm gonna go right into this. This is light 2.75. I'm just gonna use my finger to warm it up. This is a pretty solid, thicker in consistency concealer. And I am going to start in that inner corner and apply. And then I'm actually just gonna use my finger to pull this down and blend it out. I feel like the texture works really well with your finger. Wow, that was easy. Ooh, I love that. I love the finish of that. Okay, that blended out so easy. Even though it's a like thick cream, it actually shears out really nicely, but you still get good coverage. I'm gonna go in with a little bit more. And right here in this corner, I have a little bit of green. I think a lot of us do. So I really make sure that I take my concealer right there to brighten that area up. Ooh, that looks really good. It tends to smooth out any texture underneath my eyes. Also with concealer though, I think that it's one of those products, just like foundation, you have to give it a full day wear test, right? You can't, because sometimes, you know, concealers can transfer or dry out throughout the day, but that actually looks really, really nice. Very nice. Okay. All right, so let me take another peek at the foundation. So this is what we are looking at. I still think I have more coverage on this side. Should we go and even it out? We're gonna go and even it out. I'm gonna use whatever's left on my hand and build. Okay. Okay, so I think we are done with foundation and concealer. This is how the skin looks after immediately applying both. There hasn't been time for my skin to really oxidize, create oils, but we are going to check in throughout the day and see how this wears. I am going to set it with a little bit of powder, and I'm just gonna use, this is actually a tiny little sample size of the Laura Mercier, Secret Brightening Powder. I like this powder because it's not gonna alter the color or not even really the finish of the foundation. It's very, very sheer and translucent. It has the slightest brightening effect. And I'm going to use, here we go. I'm gonna use the BK Beauty 108 brush. I like this brush for setting powder when I'm just trying to use minimal product, because I can really precision point where I wanna apply it. Like, I don't want a big fluffy brush because I don't want it all over. I really just want to set the areas that tend to get a little oily throughout the day, like my nose, my forehead, kind of around my mouth, and then of course underneath my eyes to set that concealer. Okay, and I'm gonna refrain from like dusting it all over. Okay, so this is how the skin looks. I am gonna go and apply the rest of my makeup, and I will be right back. So we are done with makeup. I wanted to show you guys one last quick close-up of the skin. It's been about maybe 15 minutes since I applied the foundation, maybe 20, so you guys could kind of see how it is looking. I think overall it looks really good. I definitely can agree with like the soft matte claim. The skin has a mattifying finish to it, but it's very soft and kind of like blurry, if that makes sense. I do feel like my pores are noticeably less noticeable. Why do I twist my words? I feel like my pores look better. I feel like my pores look better than they did when we first started this video, if you can remember or go back to that. They definitely look softer and smoother. Now that I have all the makeup on, I think the coverage is about the same on the brush and the sponge side, but again, I did use more foundation on the sponge to achieve the same coverage. So I think from what I know today and what my skin looked like yesterday at the same point, the key is not to apply too much. Yesterday, I think I applied too much and my skin was a little dehydrated yesterday, but this looks, it looks very different than it did yesterday. Yesterday, I did feel like it settled in my pores, but that was only after I went back and added more when I really didn't need it. So if you tend to have a heavy hand, I think the sponge would be a better route, but if you love a brush, just be careful that you don't apply too much. Okay, so it's 11:45 a.m. I will do a couple of check-ins today and show you how the foundation is wearing. I'll also let you guys know of any touch-ups that I have to do, and we will see how this wears by the end of the day. Hey guys, it's 4:30 p.m. I meant to do a check-in sooner than now. I had an alarm set for 3 p.m., but I've kind of been running around since I filmed that introduction, the first part of the video today. I have had 2 doctor's appointments, both which I had to put a mask on. I have gone through the car wash and I have vacuumed out and cleaned out the interior of my car myself, and it's 100 degrees outside, so I was like getting really hot and sweaty during that. And then it just dawned on me that I hadn't done my check-in yet. So I think I finished up at 11:45 this morning, so that's what, 4.5, almost 5 hours or so that I have had the foundation on. I have not touched up with powder or anything yet. I just looked in the mirror, and I will say I do notice that my concealer has kind of gotten a little, like I feel like I need to touch up my concealer. Now, I didn't put that much on this morning. I kept it really light and sheer, but I definitely think it's kind of faded. So next time I'd try to apply a little bit more and see if that coverage lasts me throughout the day, because I've noticed it's kind of faded a little bit, but the foundation looks really good. I did notice it kind of gathering around my nose just now, but that was right. I literally just was in my garage cleaning my car out, and it is so hot. And rather than use a powder to touch up, I just kind of took my finger and blotted like any excess oils, and it actually like smoothed everything out. So I haven't touched up with powder yet. I wanted to wait and do that on camera for you guys, but I'm gonna get up close so you can kind of see how the foundation looks. It definitely has, you know, it definitely looks like it's been on the skin for a few hours. It doesn't look as fresh as it did this morning, but considering having a mask on, 2 different appointments today. I went to the grocery store too and had a mask on. So I've had a mask on for a couple of hours today, and it's really hot outside. I would say it looks really good. I mean, I haven't touched up once. I know I keep saying that, but I'm really impressed with the way it looks after all of that. Let me get in closer for you guys. Then I'm gonna take a little powder and show you how it looks after I touch up. Yeah, looks good. I mean, I always have a little foundation, like I always have a little settling here around the nose, almost with every foundation that I wear, so that's kind of to be expected, but I am impressed. Okay, I'm gonna grab, what do I have here? I'm gonna grab my IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores powder, And then I'm gonna grab a, what do I have? I'm gonna use the BK Beauty 208 brush. And I'm just gonna take, and remember when I set it this morning, I didn't even powder the whole face. I just powdered the T-zone and underneath my eyes. So I'm kind of impressed that it has held up so well. All right, I'm gonna just do this. I need to grab a mirror because it's hard for me to see. I'm using my phone to film this. Sorry, I'm like getting really up close and personal. I wanna grab a mirror and see how it looks. Oh my gosh, wow, okay. When I just did that, it completely refreshed the foundation. It looks as fresh as it did this morning when I applied it. Okay, yeah, so really impressed with the foundation. The concealer's kind of faded. I should have applied a little bit more. That is something that I definitely would touch up about now, but otherwise, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with about 5 hours of wear, and given all the activity that I've done today, I'm impressed. It didn't seem to wear off anywhere. I don't really notice anywhere on my face that it seems like transferred onto my mask. And I do feel like the color has not oxidized or changed at all. Yeah. Okay, great. All right, so it is 4:36 to be exact. I will be checking in with you guys this evening before I wash it all off. I'll try and hold out as long as I can. I'm thinking around 8:30 or 9 is when I'll do my next check-in and let you guys know how it is looking. But so far, I'm gonna give this 2 thumbs up, yes. So we are back. It is shortly before 9 p.m. So I'm going to zoom you guys in a little closer and see how the foundation is looking. I have not touched up or done anything since my last check-in. I can't recall what time that was, 5, 6 o'clock or so. I haven't added any powder. I didn't actually touch up with concealer or add anything additional like I had mentioned that I would. So what you guys are seeing is pretty much just me doing nothing from that point until now, a few hours later. So I'm going to zoom you guys in so we can see how things are looking. Okay, so we're close. It's always so much brighter when I film at like these check-ins late at night and I have all these bright lights on me. I don't know why, I guess because it's dark outside, but my eyes are super sensitive to all the light. Okay, so let's take a look at how things are looking. I'm just gonna be kind of glancing in my mirror and telling you guys what I see. So the concealer kind of definitely did fade. I don't have as much coverage as I did when I initially applied it. I do feel like that is kind of worn off. Again, I didn't really apply much at all. So I do think that had I built it or applied a little more, maybe I would have more coverage at this point. I'm not sure. Overall, the foundation looks really good. On the forehead, it looks really good. In the area of my face that has more texture, right here I've got those large pores. I do see it kind of settling into the pores a little bit. It's not too bad. It's not something that I would look at and it's not something that I would look out and really like count against because it's if I think about everything that I put the foundation through today, I actually think the foundation looks pretty good. Does it look fresh and applied like it was 9 hours ago? No, it does not. But considering the fact that I wore a mask for several hours today, I was outside in the heat, I was vacuuming my car in the heat, and I only touched up once, I actually think this looks really, really good. Yes, I do see it settling a little bit here in my pores, but I think if I had maybe maintained it a little bit better, I could prevent that. But overall, it looks really good. And it's actually not, it didn't gather around my nose. Normally when I wear matte foundations that offer a lot of coverage, I get a lot of buildup here around my nose, but I don't see any. I really don't see any around my nose. That's pretty impressive. The only kind of thing that I notice again is just a little settling of the foundation in my little pores here. But other than that, it hasn't really moved into the lines. I usually see it kind of build or gather here. I always usually see foundations gather here, and there's really none of that here. So I am impressed with this foundation. I am. I think it'd be really great for someone who has oily skin. I think that it would be really great for someone that has kind of normal to combo skin. I do think it would be good for someone that has a fair amount of texture to the skin because it did seem to kind of initially blur out and soft imperfections, blemishes in my skin. It did make the texture in my skin look a little bit smoother upon application. So I like it. If I were to rate this, I would, on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 5, 5 being, wow, knock your socks off, and 1 being, you know, really disappointing, I would probably give it like a 4, like a 3.85 or a 4 is where I would put it at. I definitely will be re-wearing this foundation for sure. I think it's one of those foundations that you kind of have to play with. Again, My advice would be not to apply too much. I applied too much yesterday and I did feel like it looked a little heavy. Today it looks really good and I was very conscious of how much I applied. I personally do like to apply it with a brush, particularly one that you can buff it into the skin, something that has a shape like this, kind of a dome round kabuki style foundation brush. This is the 106 by BK Beauty, but It Cosmetics has a really great one too that's kind of similarly shaped. So any brush like that you can really kind of press and then buff into the skin. I do think it's a foundation that you can easily touch up, meaning that, you know, using just a little bit of a loose powder and like precisely touching up in certain areas will completely refresh the skin. It's one of those foundations that you can really bring back to life, I think, by just doing a little minimal touch up. Some foundations, I feel like you can't do that. I feel like after 4 or 5 hours, there's really no going back. This one's not. I was really impressed with how I was able to freshen it up and revive it just with that little bit of It Cosmetics powder that I applied a few hours ago. I do think that this could work for dry skin. I do, because it's not a heavy, powdered, flat, matte look. And because it does tend to look more like natural skin, you know, after an hour or so when your skin starts to kind of produce natural oils, it does take on that look of like a natural skin look. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I think if I think of my top all matte foundations, I'd have to put Too Faced Peach Perfect in there. I would put the Dior Forever matte foundation in there. And I'm gonna say I would put this one in there too. It's a really nice, soft, velvety matte finish. So I am a fan of this one. Good job. This is definitely one that I'm going to keep into my routine and my rotation. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you've tried this foundation, but it hasn't really launched yet, so maybe you haven't, but when you try this, if you try this, come back and let us know your feedback. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I did like the concealer upon initially applying it, but I need to layer it and build a little more. I really like the way that it looked, but I didn't like the way that it wore throughout the day. So I think I'm just gonna have to build it to get a little bit more coverage. But anyhow, that is my review over this. Hope that was helpful. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.